Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today we're going to be playing with Momo321's Turbo Omnitell Hullday. So buckle up, we've got a couple of different combos in here. Number one is the Hullbreacher combo with Days Undoing. So the idea is that you cast a Days Undoing, so you and your opponent both draw 7 cards, and you control a Hullbreacher, so they don't actually get cards. This is supposed to turn Days Undoing into a one-sided draw 7 that also gives you 7 treasure tokens, which you can then use to cast very big, very dumb and stupid, and very powerful cards. But we don't want that to be our only way to get these powerful things into play, so we will be playing with Show and Tell, which is going to let us dump in the Omniscience, the one with the multiverse, the Emrakul, or the brand new Atraxa Grand Unifier, which I'm not going to say is taking over the format, because, you know, like Blue-Red Delver / Grixis Delver and the Initiative are a thing, but this card is putting up serious results in Legacy, and I'm really enjoying playing with this. In addition to these two combos, we are also playing a whopping 4 copies of Intuition, and these can serve as a lot of different things. You know, our opponent casts something scary, Intuition for 3 copies of Force of Will. Bam, got him. We need a combo piece. Hey, there's our Show and Tell or our Hullbreacher. Oh, we have a Show and Tell and Omniscience. We need a way to win afterwards. Oh, bam, there's the Emrakul. And kind of stapling this together will be a handful of other cards, and noticeably we are going to have Chalice of the Void, as we are not playing the traditional like Ponders, Brainstorms, Preordains that a Show and Tell deck might normally play. So our plan is to go turbo here. It's in the name, right? So hopefully on turn 1 we can cast a 3-drop. Generally speaking, that's going to be the plan. Notably, Narset is going to be very difficult to cast on turn 1 because we are going to lean on Ancient Tomb quite a bit. The sideboard here is a thing of beauty. 4 Torpor Orb, 4 Defense Grid, 4 Leyline of the Void, 3 Leyline of Sanctity. This deck knows what its problems are and kind of leans into fixing those rather than just trying to have generic answers for everything. I think final thing that I want to mention here is a handful of Momo321's deck lists have already been on this channel before, such as like the Void Stompy deck list with like Nether Void and Uncounterable Dragons and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to try this one out. If you're new here and you like what you see, please consider subscribing, and if you're a regular, throw me a like before this video begins. It's the easiest way to support my content for free. Let's battle. Well, I'm keeping this hand. I can tell you that much. I'm very likely to just vomit my hand and just cast a Days Undoing. Opponent has wished me luck. We're gonna do something in their second main phase. It is a Scalding turn. That makes it a little scarier to go all in on a Days Undoing. Basic Island. Careful Study. This shuffles Graveyard. Alright, so I know what's going on. Petal. Petal. Mox. Imprint Intuition. Mox. Imprint Intuition. I think I just do this. I think I just do this with 3 mana in play. And be sad if it gets countered. Okay, this is very nice. I just have another Days Undoing, which is kind of gross. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana, or alternatively 5 mana. Do I just cast Days Undoing again after playing a Chalice? So that my opponent can't Careful Study? Sure. Let's go Chalice. And just Days Undoing again. Okay. My opponent can hard discard here. Hand's not exactly fantastic. I'm a Show and Tell or Intuition away from this hand being very good. Yes. The stuff can happen at instant speed due to Lion's Eye Diamond. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I am probably going to end up playing double Hullbreacher here. Go ahead and play an Otawara. Lose that land. Cast a Lotus Petal. Now I have 1, 2, 3 available for a second Hullbreacher, should I need it. Okay, nice. I think a Chalice on 0 is acceptable here as a follow-up, so that future LEDs can't do anything meaningful. And I might be playing Merfolk here. Alright, my opponent did not dump their hand. A mountain. Wild. Alright, new Hullbreacher. Okay, I'll go ahead and attack for 6 here. Send him on in. No mid-combat LED nonsense. Go ahead and play this as a land. Going to pay the 3 life. And I'm thinking about bouncing this LED. Alright, never mind. My opponent did not give me that opportunity. Icarid can attempt to do Icarid stuff. Arctic Reunion. Okay, sure. I think I just go and strand this Icarid in my opponent's hand, rather than just kind of deal with that every turn. Alright, Chrome Mox is not what I'm looking for here. Send in for some damage. Puts my opponent to 7. My opponent's trying not to block, because this can represent zombies from Bridge from Below in the future. Not this time, although this is a... Well, actually, it's not a decent hit because I have Chalice. Alright, yep. They're not willing to block yet. They're going to give it another turn. Force of Will is fantastic here. That's just great insurance. I don't know exactly what it is insurance against, but it's great insurance. Okay, that's a whiff. I believe we take game 1 now. We do. Weird game. Did not expect to be just killing with Hullbreachers here. Okay, I imagine this is 4x Leyline of the Void in no other actions. I guess actually I could consider sideboarding in the Leyline of Sanctity as well. Like, Cabal Therapy is very much a thing. But I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to do 4x Leyline in. Chalice on the draw is not great. I think I'm going to swap Chalice of the Void for Leyline of the Void. Void for Void. When I'm on the draw. And then when I'm on the play, I'll keep some Chalices and get rid of something else. So this hand is Chrome Mox, Pitch Omniscience, City of Traders, Intuition, or 3x Show and Tell. Show and Tell in Emrakul. On turn 2. Okay. And can get significantly better very quickly as well. Alright, Upkeep, Surveil. Acceptable. Ooh, that's really good. Kind of. Kind of want to Chrome Mox and pitch this, though, so that I can Omniscience, Emrakul, take the extra turn immediately. That may be greedy, but I think it's what I'm doing. Pitch Days Undoing, City, and pass. I don't know, maybe my line just wins harder and isn't hedging against the lose cases. Alright. So this with Surveil can happen at any time. Intuition notably does target our opponent, which is not usually relevant, but every once in a great while some sort of hexproof thing matters. Show and Tell. Show and Tell. Show and Tell. Alright, we've gotten a response from our opponent. Alright, it is just immediately surveilling. Alright, there are Dredgers in there. There are Cabal Therapies in there. I don't know exactly what this deck looks like. This is kind of a unique build. I don't know, like, if I need to randomly play around days, for example. So I am going to randomly play around days, because I think it costs me basically nothing to do so. Let's attempt Show and Tell here. I will put in Omniscience. I will cast an Emrakul. Alright. Let's battle. Take my land drop. Going to force my opponent to sacrifice theoretically all of their permanents. But they can do some stuff. Graveyard's going to get kind of big. There's a Narcomoeba. My opponent can cast an Otherworldly Gaze here with Flashback. Sure. I wonder if you're supposed to do that before that sacrifice trigger resolves or not. like hitting extra Narcomoebas versus getting extra zombies. I guess hitting a Narcomoeba to block matters more. Alright, opponent's at 2. I have an Emrakul in play. I don't know what exactly could kill me from here. It would have to be pretty ridiculous, like some sort of like Flare of the Hatebound kill or something. All therapy resolves. What sort of comedic name do you have for me? My opponent says, just because I want to see this. A little chat. Choice name. Alright, we have gotten the GGs from our opponent. This deck feels pretty powerful. So I'm keeping my hand, and I'm on the play. However, this hand is incredibly difficult to evaluate, like, in terms of, like, how do I play this? I think it's Chrome Mox, Imprint, Seagate Restoration, play Lotus Petal, play City, pass? Like, I want to be able to cast something around a daze, and I want to keep Show and Tell, just in case I top deck a fatty. I just don't think I want to play this out preemptively. It's gonna bite me in the butt if my opponent just like plays fetch land and passes, though. Go on. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I'll go ahead and let that resolve, and then play my Hullbreacher. That's very good. So I'll Intuition on my opponent's turn for probably Emrakul, Atraxa, and call it good there. I'd be fine trading this for this. Yeah. Alright, opponent's just gonna take that. Not surprising. I guess if my opponent doesn't do anything scary, I can also just Intuition for Days Undoing X3. And, like, that's perfectly reasonable as well. This is acceptable. Yeah, this is kind of a slow start from my opponent. I'm okay taking 2 here. I will Intuition. So, do I want triple Emrakul, or do I want to give my opponent the chance to give me an Atraxa? Emrakul gives me 15 life if answered by a Solitude. Atraxa always gives me more looks at cards. I want to just use to touch the Spirit Realm. I think I want an Atraxa more than an Emrakul. Yeah, I'm going to go Atraxa, Emrakul. If I had 3-1 with the multiverses, I would very highly consider just doing that. I only have 2. Could have done Atraxa, 1 with the multiverse, 1 with the multiverse. Alright, cool. Force of Will's not bad. It's slightly awkward with an Archon in play, but very good considering Atraxa. I choose Atraxa. My opponent gets Palace Jailer. So if they had that, they probably should have just given me Emrakul. Because I get 1 spell a turn. So it's not like I'm going to cast Emrakul. Alright, my opponent becomes the Monarch. I'm just going to Intuition and Show and Tell again. I will take Sorcery, Instant, Artifact, Planeswalker, Otawara as land, I suppose. That seems fine. Alright, draw 5. Can't cast any more here. I will very aggressively Force of Will something that my opponent does here. Like, basically anything. Alright, I'll go to 14. Sure. Alright, no play from my opponent. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and cast a Lotus Petal. I'm fine with that being my spell for this turn cycle. I'll go ahead and pass the turn. I'll Intuition for 3 Emrakuls and then Show and Tell that in. I could also Otawara back Archon at the cost of a Lotus Petal at some point. A little awkward against another one of these, though. Alright, I'll take 4. Cavern of Souls is good here. It keeps me from using the Force of Will that my opponent knows about. That's uncounterable. And now bouncing that doesn't really make sense. C'est la vie. I will Intuition. Select 3 Emrakuls. It's the illusion of choice. And I will try to make my opponent answer an Emrakul. Next copy of Show and Tell. I have brought an Emrakul to class. Yikes. That's okay. I've got a plan for that. Play a new City of Traders. Fuck. I do not have a plan for that anymore. I got excited that I could just bounce that out of the way and then steal a win and attack for exactly 15. And I just threw away a land. I don't know that throwing away that land matters. Like, now I wait another turn for Otawara. I bounce one of these out of the way. I block one of these. I still take exactly 4. I can Narset into a spell and then not cast it. 3 mana, Hullbreacher. Chromox Imprint, short of Otawara. Don't have a legendary creature to reduce the cost of this. Yeah, that's unfortunate. GG. I think sideboarding is straightforward here. This feels like Chalice of the Void or Torpor Orb. Torpor Orb stops a lot of these Palace Jailer type things that could otherwise disrupt what I'm doing. Okay, this has all the right cards, but not enough mana. Auto Mulligan has all the right cards and not enough mana. Auto Mulligan. Wow. This is a 5. I'm keeping it. I'm very unsure how to play this hand, because I get to keep kind of a show and tell angle or a Hullbreacher Days Undoing angle. The Hullbreacher Days Undoing angle loses harder to Solitude. So I think I keep that, pitch these. I'm always doing this, and I think I'm going to pass the turn. I'm going to get punished by something like Archon here, but I would prefer not to give up any of these cards if I can. This is just show and tell for Omniscience, cast Intuition, triple Emrakul, cast Emrakul, win. If I just draw some other random junk blue card. Alright. White Plume Adventurer is fine. It's very good. It's the best card in the deck. But it's not the best card here. Take your basic planes. Soul Land is my best draw. Land is an acceptable draw. I think at this point, I need to just cast this. I will imprint the Omniscience. Is it once per turn? Maybe I won't, actually. I want to Intuition for Emrakul. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put that under there now. I'm going to get hit for 5 this turn. And then we'll kind of see how bad it is after that. My opponent may have kept their hand on the strength of, like, Oblivion Ring or a Caracas or something. Come on, land. Days Undoing is not that. I'm going to assume that I've lost the game now. That's not literally true, but it's very likely, because I get, like, I'm taking 10 damage this turn between Trap and White Plume. My opponent is still going to have 7 cards in hand beyond those. I think this is just, you know, the fail rate of our deck happening. Sure. I take 5 in combat here. Go to 5. Need to draw a mana source, or I'm dead. I mean, there was literally nothing that I could do that game. I had basically 0 agency. GG. For the next round here, I just want to thank some of my recent patrons, like Rob H., Philip H., Joshua R., RJ, Bowlful, Abayer, Jacob S., Dowell, Master Uguay, and Bruno G. Thank you so much for your support, and if you haven't already, please remember that when you sign up with my Patreon, you do get access to my Discord. Hop in there and chill. It's a fun little community. Alright, back to the magic. Okay, this feels like a keep. It's turn 1 Chalice, turn 2 Ow, play Hullbreacher, turn 3 Days Undoing. That's pretty reasonable. I don't think I mulligan this one. Like, I kind of wish I wasn't doing so much damage to myself, especially on the draw, but feels solid. Ponder. Maybe a Reanimator deck. It can be so many things. I've just seen so much Reanimator online recently that I'm kind of defaulting. Oh. I had a little more information about what my opponent was doing. I'm going to go ahead and play this out so I can play a Chalice of the Void around a Daze. And I'm going to kind of assume that this is Force of Will fodder. And then my win is actually going to be Hullbreacher Days Undoing in future turns. Alright. We're chilling. I will play this as a land so I don't hurt myself more. And just call it a turn. What's going on over there? Could be a sneak attack, like show and tell sort of deck. Okay, no other movement. I am just going to lead on the Hullbreacher here. In play. Let's go to punchies. Get in for some merfolk damage. Opponent goes to 16. I could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 this turn. So I think that means that I just attempt Days Undoing with extra mana available. If it works, cool. If it doesn't work, I Intuition for Force of Will. Use target opponent. Okay. There we go. Intuition. Force of Will. Force of Will. Force of Will. Now I'll go ahead and Force of Will. I guess pitching Narset. Okay. Alright, yeah. It is some sort of unfair cheaty deck. Alright, so it's unfortunate that my opponent had double Force of Will there. I don't know what I'm doing with that Intuition. I guess I can attack first and then figure it out. Are there 4 Days Undoings in this deck? Because if there are, I all of a sudden know what I'm doing. There are 4 Days Undoings in this deck. This is so much damage to myself. Intuition, target you. 3 copies of Days Undoing. Okay, nice. So I haven't formally seen red, but given that both of my opponent's fetches are Scalding Turns, it's very possible that my opponent does have the red mana. So basically, do I want to play Defense Grid is the question here. Defense Grid is awkward because it stops my Force of Wills, and I also have Intuition for Force of Will. My Chalices are medium. My Torpor Orbs technically have text. How good they are depends on how many Atraxas my opponent is playing. I don't think I want Defense Grid when I'm on the draw. I'm keeping the shit out of this hand. I have an Emrakul and or an Omniscience for if my opponent casts a Show and Tell. And otherwise I've just got like Hullbreacher as a very reasonable thing that I can do. Backup Emrakul. Cast Chrome Mox. Imprint Seagate. Play Lotus Petal. Pass turn. And go for end of turn Hullbreacher, or Hullbreacher in response to a Ponder or whatever. Sure. Hullbreacher. No immediate removal spell. Get in there, little merfolk friend. Opponent goes to 16. I am going to go ahead and cast a Lotus Petal, because this means that I can hard cast a Force of Will. Or at least I am representing that I can do so. Okay. Are we chilling? We're chilling. Don't love that as a draw for me. I have 6 mana. I'm a little short of hard casting an Emrakul right now. Gonna need a few more mana sources. No moves from my opponent yet, and they kept their hand. Spirit Guide. Okay. I mean, I guess I'll stop attacking. Okay. I have stuff to do if somebody casts a Show and Tell. Until then, we're gonna stare at each other. And I think my art is better. You're iconic. You're on a pirate ship. I don't know, this is a merfolk though, and like I hate merfolk, so. Uh-oh. Did not. Okay, it's not happening yet. I will just take this damage. Go to 16. Show and Tell. That's basically Show and Tell. Intuition, target you. 3 copies of Show and Tell. I do not believe that the card that I'm about to cast is going to resolve. However, I am terrified. So I'm just going to go for this. Yep, that's fine. If I attack in this Hullbreacher, and my opponent has something really weird, like double Grizzlebrand, like this could be the wrong move. It's fine. Okay, there's the first Grizzlebrand. I don't super care about that Grizzlebrand. I care... Oh, actually, I guess I do, because I can just draw post-combat. That was fucking stupid on my end. Yeah, I only halfway thought through that. Okay, I lost that one. Yep, that was just one of those brain fart moments where I went, oh, Hullbreacher stops the Grizzlebrand from drawing. It's okay. It was not okay. Okay, yeah, there's the second Grizzlebrand. I'm fine conceding there. Okay. I could defense grid when I'm on the play. Again, I don't really think I want to. This has 1 mana source. That's no good for me. This is a reasonable opening hand. I will keep it. I don't really expect to get Blood Mooned, but I'm just playing this on turn 1 anyway, so we'll put this back, or on turn 2 anyway. We'll just go ahead and put that back in the deck. And let's lead on Chalice. The hope is that I will draw a blue card so that I can Intuition into Show and Tell, Emrakul, and then have Force of Will to back up this for the Show and Tell. Days Undoing. Not bad. That may actually change what I do. I can Intuition for triple Hullbreacher, and go for Hullbreacher Days Undoing, and not expose myself to my opponent having an Emrakul in hand. I guess let's start by seeing if this resolves before I burn all my brain cells. Yeah, I think I am going to go for Hullbreachers. It's just like so awkward if I get the Show and Tell, I put an Emrakul, and then my opponent puts an Emrakul. And like maybe I lose for playing scared. But I like this. Okay, cool. Last turn. Because of random pyroclasm effects and things like that, I'm not going to play this out at sorcery speed. This is a little awkward because my opponent's about to discard to hand size. I give them a chance to not do that by playing this. No, they're still discarding. Nice. Crash in for my 3. Opponent goes to 17. I will attempt Days Undoing with Force of Will backup. It's good enough to win. GG's. Okay, I'm keeping my hand. My opponent's mulliganing pretty aggressively, which means that I might have to Force of Will. Depending on what the matchup looks like, I'm probably not casting Jaws of the Void. I'm probably just trying to go Hullbreacher on turn 1 into Days Undoing on turn 2. But it gets really weird if I have to Force of Will, since I do have 2 colorless cards in hand. Marsh Flats. The Reanimator fetch land. Death's Shadow. Understood. Yeah, you can do that all day. So if this is Death's Shadow, also the Void with Force of Will backup is incredibly strong. I'm probably going to play Tomb, Petal, Palace on 1. It just shuts off a huge percentage of their deck. Nice. Alright. Tomb, Petal, attempt Chalice on 1. Okay, it is in play. That's good, folks. That's a nuisance. But I imagine I end up coming out ahead here. We will go tapped land. Call it a turn. I need more mana here. That is what it is. Are you gonna just throw... Oh, it's a Baleful Strix. Do I care? I don't think I care. Alright, I will pass the turn here. And we're trying to work towards Hullbreacher Days Undoing. You have a Force of Will backing this up here. Real nice. This means this is the moment to fire that off. Hullbreacher. Nice. Enough out. I'm gonna have to say no to that. I will Force of Will that. Pitching an Intuition. Sure. A slightly frustrating sequence of cards there. Okay. This is fine. We'll pay the life. And I will just cast one of these, rationalizing that I can use the cards that I get much better than my opponent can use theirs. I say as I draw mono blanks. It's not like it was literally 7 lands or anything, but this is some shit, folks. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, deck. Very cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I will cast a Lotus Lotus Petal. Play this, pass the turn. I swear if I just bottom out and die to 2 copies of Baleful Strix after locking my opponent's deck out, I'm going to be so upset. Oh wow, that's another Street Wraith. Take 2 more and go to 9. See if my opponent just goes to discard. No, they've got a land drop. Sure. That is a Murktide Regent. Go ahead and attempt hard cast Force of Will on that. I don't really want a Force of Will back. But I just can't let that creature get into play. Alright. Show me a Daze. I don't think they have a Daze, because you just would have used it the first time. Thank you, deck. The Owls cometh. Drops me to 4. These Ancient Tombs are shutting off very quickly. Wow. Okay. I'm basically dead, right? Like, I could bounce an Owl. Go to 3 instead of 2. Basically have to. Because I need 2 cards to go off. Puts me at 3 instead of 2. I need both my next 2 draws to be live. Alright, there is a Street Wraith. I have outs. They're just very ugly. I think. Maybe I don't have outs. I have to try. Hullbreacher. Takes 2 to cast that. No, I am dead. And it looked like cost too much life to use the Otawara. That's really unfortunate. Like, my opponent mulliganed to 5, I think, and I had turn 1 Chalice, which shuts off a huge portion of their deck. So I want these. I don't think I mess around with Leyline of the Void. I'm just thinking about what I don't want to be playing. Narset's awkward. The notes I have for traditional Delvers say cut Chrome Mox. I don't know if I agree with that. Like, the Chrome Mox seems important to try to get this sort of stuff down quickly, but maybe if I'm planning on grinding games a little bit longer via defense grid, that's fine. Hey, a defense grid. I'm going to keep this. Debating whether or not I want to just jam defense grid on turn 1 off City of Traders and then make natural land drops after that, or if I want to like use Lotus Petal. I think I want to use Lotus Petal and just force a Force of Will or Force of Negation right now. Otherwise, it's awkward for my opponent. Okay, that's in play. Now I just have to luck sack myself into a Show and Tell or another equivalently good card. Thoughtseize is fine. Very good. But I'm missing critical stuff as of right now. I don't think I need to play this for any reason. Yeah, let's just call that a turn. The upside here is that I get to just kind of like pass the turn. You know, I was thinking about Hymn to Turok, then I went, they're probably not playing that. Although I value City of Traders higher than I do Lotus Petal by quite a bit. Consider Leyline of Sanctity for the next game. We'll go ahead and put that into play. Reliant on the top of my deck, and I also need multiple cards here. My situation's actually not very good. Okay, sure. Fetch, clear your Brainstorm. Back to 13. Death Shadow starts coming into play very quickly here. Ratchet Bomb. I think I let my opponent tick up to kill Defense Grid. And then play Chalice of the Void after they've already ticked this up. Ratchet Bomb is presumably their answer to this Chalice, which should be pretty strong. This is awkward if they just hymn me again and I lose both of these for waiting. Oh, it's just Murktide. Yeah. Well, there's half of what I need. I'm going to go ahead and shut off your future cantrips. But this Murktide is going to kill me quickly. And Ratchet Bomb can unlock their counter spells again. In a way that's just not great for me. Okay. Now I'm going to cast this for X's 2 to shut off Baleful Strix and Daze, as well as him. Opponent's not going to crack the Ratchet Bomb until they have to, which is good for them. That means they're not turning on my Force of Wills. Rough. The next draw step will be my last draw step to draw something relevant. I'm at 2. That does not do it. Like, I can Show and Tell in an Omniscience, but then I'm just dead to the onboard Murktide Regent. GG's. Okay. I am on the draw. I am a mana short of doing something, but it would be slow, right? So, like, if I draw another mana source on turn 2, I Intuition for Show and Tell, then Show and Tell Omniscience Emrakul on turn 3. I think I'm just going to ship this one and try to do something on turn 1 instead. Yes, this is fine. I will keep this pitching probably City of Traders. That way, if I draw another blue card, I have the possibility of doing some cool stuff. Don't like that. That means my opponent's relatively likely to have interaction here. Like, I can just shove this turn. I don't think that's correct. I think I'm just going to play this past the turn and then attempt to do a Days Undoing or Show and Tell in the not too distant future around at least Days. I don't know how I feel about this matchup. It's like I kept my hand hoping to just shove Days Undoing down my opponent's throat on turn 1, and then the brakes were immediately pumped. And even this turn is still like really awkward. Do I need to keep both Days Undoings and attempt to draw 7s twice, assuming my draw 7 beats their draw 7? I think that's better than hoping to top deck a creature. But like this is awkward here, right? Because like in theory, I would really like to Chrome Mox's other Days Undoing so that I have extra mana going into the next time that I do something cool. But I have to play around Days here. Yeah, that's fine. You don't have to do that now. This hand sucks. Like, I just don't have enough mana here to deploy all of this goodness. So, like, I Intuition or triple Show and Tell, and in theory I win, but I just refilled my opponent's hand, and, like, Daze is good against me. Didn't draw any fast mana here. Not the biggest fan. And I can't really Force of Will an opposing threat, because I need to keep this to protect my own combo. Yeah, that's not a great draw. Okay, yeah, I can eat some damage. That's terrifying. My opponent kept a card on top, which almost certainly means counterspell. So I think I upkeep Intuition before they have this next card. That is a Daze. I am just going to let that resolve and try again next turn. Okay, my read was correct. Alright, I'll take a little bit more damage here. Again, as long as this isn't hitting in 3s, things are relatively okay for me. But I need more mana. A go? What's in exile? Days Undoing? I think I don't go. I think I cast an Intuition at my opponent's end step, getting my 3 remaining Force of Wills, then attempt to Show and Tell with double Force of Will backup. I don't usually want to prolong... Well, okay, I should rephrase this. I don't necessarily want to prolong things versus Delver, because cards like Expressive Iteration be a kick in the teeth as the game goes long. Yeah, so like... Mystic Sanctuary is a thing that very much could happen. Alright. Attempt the Intuition again. Okay, this is fine. I cannot pay for that. Again, I do wish that I had drawn an extra mana source or Chrome Mox or something so that I could be playing around those rather than having to use counterspells. I think this is my moment, because if I wait, my opponent just gets to put a Force of Will back on top of their deck. So I think I'm going now. There is a Force of Will. I will respond with my own Force of Will. So I'm going to reread this. Once during each one of your turns, you may cast a spell from your hand or the top card of your library without playing its mana cost. Yes, that's fine. We'll put that one into play. Cast without playing its mana cost. Okay, good stuff. So in that game right there, all I wanted was additional mana, so I'm like really unsure about whether or not I want to get rid of these Chrome Mox, and like the sideboard plan that I was given suggested. Like Daze was just so live that game. I'm going to lean on the experience of the person who has piloted this deck for more than 5 matches. This is a keep. Not great versus Wasteland, but I love the cards in my hand. Sure. Boom is great. I think I'm just going to go ahead and play this tapped and attempt to play Defense Grid around Daze next turn. If I get Wastelanded, I might just play Defense Grid on my next turn anyway. But I think I want to try to play around Daze. It's really awkward to expose my secondary blue source to Wasteland. Okay, cool. Yeah, this is a defense grid situation. Sure. Delver's fine. Wastelands are so good against me. But hopefully this makes counterspells very bad against me, or at least baits the initial ones out of my opponent's hand. Okay, it's in play. It's possible that my opponent just answers that, or just, like, has the ability to play through a defense grid. Oh, no, it's shields down. We're going. Unless my opponent finds exactly Wasteland, I think I win. They just show and tell uncounterably Omniscience Emrakul. Days in Exile. Oh yeah. This feels like a GG scenario. Play this. Cast Show and Tell. Put in Omniscience. Cast Emrakul. Alright, good stuff. We end up with a 3-2 league. Alright, so I'm going to do something a little special today at the donors' request. They want me to kind of do an extensive debrief here. So let me start by saying something I usually say at the end of the video. Thank you for watching this far. If you enjoyed it, please click the like button on the way out. It helps out a lot. And thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. And now we're going to go into the weeds quite a bit deeper than I normally do with sort of an end of video thing. So starting off, like, overall thoughts on the deck list, definitely positive. Like, this was a deck that ended games quickly. It has multiple different angles of attack that overlap somewhat, right? Like, the turbo mana plan with all these sorts of things contributes both to the Hullbreacher Days Undoing combo portion of the deck, as well as the Show and Tell Omniscience Emrakul portion of the deck. So I think in terms of disparate plans that still work together in the same shell, this accomplishes that. And I like what this deck is bringing to the table. And now I'm going to go into some really nitty-gritty details here. Number one, I think I want to cut the Narset from this deck. I understand wanting to have this as the 5th Hullbreacher effect, because this is essentially an A plus B combo deck where you're trying to add just a tiny bit of resiliency to that A plus B plan, where instead of a 4-4 split, you have a 5-4 split. But I think given how tight this deck's mana is in those opening turns, the idea of actually casting a Narset on turn 1 is like very costly. And on turn 2, a lot of times, like, I want to be casting a different card instead. So I don't think the Narset is necessary in this deck list. Like, it can be totally reasonable in, like, nice slow matchups, but when I think about Legacy right now, I'm not thinking about nice slow matchups. I'm not thinking about control decks. I'm thinking about Delver. I'm thinking about Initiative, Cephalid Breakfast, Painter, Reanimator. I'm thinking about going fast, and I don't think Narset contributes to the going fast plan. So to be better at the going fast plan, I would consider going up one more Chrome Mox and going up to the 4th one of those. For the times where you just have to cast a fair Days Undoing, Chrome Mox is good both before that and after that. So, like, an additional Chrome Mox does still work with this plan, although not quite in the same way as Narset does. The other thing that I could see dropping Narset for is just another copy of Atraxa. So in, I think it was round 1 when I played against Initiative, like, I really wanted Atraxa just in case my Emrakul was going to be answered. And so having that as an option was good. In a couple of my other rounds, I was finding that since I'm not playing, like, the Ponders, the Preordains, the Brainstorms, I can't dig for the specific card that I want unless I draw an Intuition. And I think rather than upping the ratio of, like, the Narset Hullbreacher thing, it might be better to up this ratio, because this works with the Show and Tell package as something that you can do. But if you Hullbreacher Days Undoing combo and make a bunch of treasures, this also just, like, gets into the hard castable range despite being 7 mana. So I would consider one of these 2 cards over Narset. I don't think this came up more than once in the league, but 3 copies of Otawara in your 15 land deck is a little bit rough. Like, this is a legendary land, and in the slower matchups where you want to, like, do something like play out a defense grid or a torpor orb and then continue to do 1 to 2 things afterwards, I think your mana is tight. I would consider going down to 2 Otawara personally. Although I historically am overly conservative with land choices with regards to like numbers of legendary lands. But like there's definitely these times where you want to slow down and cast these cards, but if you expend temporary mana like Lotus Petal to power these out, you still need the fuel afterwards. And I think Wasteland is also a concern for this deck list. Although more frequently an Ancient Tomb is going to get Wastelanded than an Otawara. Next up, I do feel like I'm a little finisher light. Like at the end of the day, these 4 cards are the things that kill my opponent. And if I just show and tell for like an Omniscience in this deck list, I have to find one of these. And a Naked Seagate Restoration after I've used a bunch of resources like Chromox and Lotus Petal and stuff to power out my initial plays, like this isn't the like sexy draw spell that a lot of times people imagine it being. Like if you have 5 cards in hand, you probably don't need this, right? It's when you have like 1 or 2 cards in hand that like this doesn't necessarily look great off in Omniscience. The one with the multiverse kind of helps out with that, but one with the multiverse is probably worse than Omniscience in this specific deck because you want to intuition for an Emrakul afterwards, right? And with one with the multiverse, you can't do that in the same turn cycle. As far as the rest of the sideboard goes, generally speaking, I'm okay with what's there, but the only conceptual problem that I have is like what happens when you want to board in 7 or 8 cards. Like for example, if I had gone to a game 3 versus Death Shadow, I probably would have wanted Leyline of Sanctity and Defense Grid in at the same time. Or maybe versus Blue Red Delver, I'm supposed to board in Leyline of the Void, and then I'm supposed to board in 8. Like, what happens when you board out 8 cards? You know, how much of the shell do you strip by doing that? If I'm trying to compete versus Dazes and Wastelands and I'm removing Chrome Mox from the deck, like that definitely feels awkward to me. And if I end up trimming a bunch of like the Omniscience type stuff, then I become more and more reliant on exactly for show and tell Emrakul. So those are kind of my extensive thoughts on this deck after seeing it in action. All right, folks, I hope you have a great rest of the day, and thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. See you again soon.